30-minute presentation, and it's called Combating Racism at the Winterthur Museum. And our presenters are Nyla Bird, Vinnie Burton, and Magdalena Solano. And I'll just introduce them really quickly. Nyla Bird is a graduate fellow at the Winterthur/University of Delaware program in art conservation. Her professional interests include the fabrication of inorganic objects, archaeological conservation, creating protective housings, and inequity and inclusion in conservation. She believes the conservation field can lead the charge on creating anti-racist museums. Vinnie Burton is a second-year graduate student in the Winterthur program in American Material Culture. Their love of Black-centered material culture and contemporary art was established through their work as an undergraduate researcher for the Colored Conventions Project, a collective that documents 19th century Black collective organizing by bringing it to digital life, and their involvement with the Creative Visions Factory, an establishment in downtown Wilmington that fosters creativity for those on the behavioral health spectrum. And last, we have Magdalena Solano, is a second-year graduate fellow at the Winterthur University of Delaware program in art conservation, specializing in the conservation of paintings. Her interests include the preservation and study of materials and materiality used in modern and contemporary art, particularly of historically marginalized artists, and research into various cleaning technologies currently and historically used on painted surfaces. Okay, without further ado, take it away.
The Winterthur Museum are on the ancestral territory of the Lenape people. Magdalena is currently presenting from the ancestral territory of the Tataviam and Serrano people. We would like to recognize and thank these people for the care they have given and continue to give to the land. To find out more about the indigenous groups we mentioned, we encourage visiting the links provided. Our hope for this land acknowledgement is not only to acknowledge and appreciate these indigenous groups ourselves, but to push our institution to do the same. We would like to see Winterthur Museum reach out to the Lenape community in order to create a formal land acknowledgement and to include Lenape voices as stakeholders in the institution. Can museums change? We will be exploring this big question through our experiences as graduate students at the Winterthur Museum, Garden, and Library. My name is Nyla Bird. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a second-year student in the Winterthur University of Delaware program in art conservation.
My name is Vinnie Burton. My pronouns are she, her, and they, them, and I am a second year in the Winterthur program in American Material Culture.
And my name is Magdalena Solano, and I use she, her pronouns. I am a second-year student in the Winterthur University of Delaware program in art conservation.
Change is a vague concept, to say the least. So what do we mean by change? We're going to be discussing the fundamental change that is decolonization, a process that institutions undergo to expand the perspectives they portray beyond those of the dominant cultural group, particularly white colonizers. Can an institution built upon the foundation of colonization truly be decolonized? Will we have to metaphorically and literally tear everything down and start over? These are the questions we will be exploring in this presentation.
While at the same time not feeling supported. This institution is a host of our research at the moment. Truths of the Trade was an exhibition curated by the graduate students that aimed to consider the relationship of slavery and racism to objects in the Winterthur collection.
On June 4th, Winterthur posted to Instagram the solidarity statement you see on this slide. The photo in the corner is the photo the statement was posted under, making it clear that Winterthur was not willing to sacrifice its Instagram aesthetic in order to express its solidarity. I won't read the whole statement, but I've highlighted parts of it that currently ring as half-truths in the institution. Winterthur claims to welcome and serve people of all ethnicities, races, and genders without exception, but I personally have yet to see this full range of visitorship when in the museum. Right off the bat, we can see that Winterthur bothered to interrupt its Instagram aesthetic with the text you see here. This text is just the first square in a post that requires swiping through. I'm not going to read the entire statement, but I will mention that it explicitly says Black Lives Matter
beyond those of the dominant cultural group, particularly white colonizers. However, often people
like, Laura, help me. I've been doing all this research for weeks and I'm just not finding what I'm looking for. She basically said to me something along the lines of, Well, that's because it's not really a thing we talk about. Of others' Twitter page under the handle AFAM history, the development of a safe space where employees might feel less vulnerable when working with a neutral third party and under the protection of confidentiality